Okay, so we made this relative transition towards animal foods to a fairly substantial degree, but humans were basically omnivorous to some extent everywhere you look for them. We do have a smaller gut compared to other primates. We've got this low
Hmm.
stomach pH. Hunting and gathering developed so we could sort of take
Yeah.
advantage of all possible available foods, more or less. And then we've got just higher total energy expenditure. So somehow all these things added up such that humans just have extra energy, so to speak, compared
Yeah.
to other animals.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And that strategy wasn't available to other apes because they couldn't figure out hunting and gathering. I mean, not that they're actively trying, of course, but if we sort of think about it like evolution like a game, that strategy doesn't, they don't use that strategy, doesn't occur to them, whatever, not available to them. And so that's why we have this unique lineage.
And I want to get back. So now I want to talk about um, not the deep evolutionary history of our genus, but
Hmm.
after Homo sapiens is around, we become, and up to the present day, there's hunter gatherers and traditional populations living all over the world in very different food environments. They're all hunting and gathering in
Hmm.
to different degrees, and diet is different all over the world.
Yeah.
So, this starts to get us into questions around, because today, when you look at diet and
Yeah.
people get so excited and so tribal, you've got carnivore people and vegan people, and then
Yeah.
you've got, everything in between. And people are often talking about the human diet or what humans are
Yeah.
supposed to eat. I want to talk a little bit now about how diet has varied around the world across what we'll just call traditional hunter-gatherer populations,
Sure.
leaving aside for a moment, like us, modern
Yeah.
sedentary, technological, civilizational human beings. Can you talk a little bit about that? How, say, the mix of animal and plant foods has varied across traditional hunter-gatherer populations as a function of where they live?
Yeah, so we have ethnographic accounts, people finding these communities and taking notes on what they see that go back to the early explorer days, the early European explorer days, 1500s, 1600s, and then up to the sort of present day. And we've got these ethnographic accounts of, over 200 populations worldwide. Most of them are no longer really around anymore. They've been, they're not intact cultures anymore. But we've got 260 different communities or more that were hunting and gathering. Maybe some had a little bit of farming. Maybe some were doing a lot of fishing. There's variation there, but we have 260 data points now to see how diet changes across the globe. And what you see is there's an incredible mix of how much animal food and how much plant food these populations are getting across the globe. Like you expect, people in warmer climates are eating more plant foods because plants grow better in warm climates. And people who live closer to the poles in more Arctic environments are eating more animal foods because plants don't grow as well there, and there's more animal food available. Um, if you live near a river and can get lots of fish all the time, guess what? Eat a lot of fish. If you start farming a little bit and have, some staple crops there, you eat more plants because that's what you're farming.
Mhm.
So it's a mix.
Yeah.
But even the pure hunter-gatherers, you see a whole range of foods
Right,
eaten.
right. Yeah, you've got this great graph in this paper I've referenced a lot, and it's basically percent of diet from animals across all these traditional
Yeah.
populations as a function of latitude. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but when I look at this, basically, if you get close to the equator, people are eating 40, 60, 60, 40 mix of plants and animals. So it's,
Yeah.
it's about 50-50 plus or minus some. And then as you move away from the equator, it becomes more animal centric. And you do have a variety of populations. I don't know what the proportion is here, but a solid chunk that are like, 80-20 or even close to almost all animal products. That would be like the Inuit or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. And so a couple of things to keep in mind there. One is because often that data point, those 80/20s or more of animal foods get used to say, oh, look, we're supposed to be carnivores.
Mm-hmm.
So let me stop you right there and just
Yeah.
say, um, people haven't been in the Arctic full time until about 8,000 years ago. That's
Yeah.
that's less ancient than farming.
Right. Right. Right.
So in
Right.
terms of as a model of where we're
I
from,
see.
unless you have recent Inuit ancestry, that is not where
Right.
you're from.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a strange model. It's actually a stranger model of the past in some ways than a farming
Yeah.
population is.
So the Inuit are less old than farming. That
Yes.
probably ties into, so there is evidence of human carnivory in the last ice age, but that would again be a very, very recent and short sort of time window that was sampled from, I want to ask you about sort of on this topic. So farming's 10 or 12,000 years old.
Hmm.
I want to give people a sense for the speed of evolution and
Hmm.
metabolic adaptation. So I'll let you sort of direct where we go here, but if let's just say you're talking about farming, to what extent can we be adapted to a grain-based farming diet? If we've only had that for 10 or 12,000 years, how much adaptation can you get in that
Yeah.
time? Can you completely adapt to a diet in that amount of time, or does it take 100,000 years, say?
Well, you're assuming that we didn't have those same nutrients in our diet before.
Mm-hmm.
Why would it take a long time why would you have to adapt to a grain-based diet? If you're eating starches in those foods, if that's what you're adapting to, well, there's starches in foods going back millions of years to when we're eating tubers,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? If you're trying to adapt to the specific nutrients, micronutrients in a grain, then sure, that could take longer.
Mm-hmm.
But we see adaptations to specific nutrients happening pretty quickly if there's enough pressure. So, for example, the ability to digest milk as an adult, lactose
Yeah.
tolerance,
Yeah.
that seems to evolve pretty quickly after the development of dairy farming
Yeah.
happens independently, actually, in Northern Europe and then in Northern Africa.
And that's like what a few thousand years of it
Yeah,
sweeps through the population.
yeah, that's right. Oh, and by the way, a nice UK biobank study recently, you don't have to have that genetic adaptation to eat and enjoy dairy. People who without those genes still enjoy dairy, and your body kind of figures out a way to digest it.